2023 Rock and Roll Half Marathon, Washington, D.C. edition, March 18th. Here we have a couple of weather predictions. Average air temp about 48 degrees Fahrenheit, but that can vary drastically on either side. There's been years where it's been 25 degrees. There's been years where it's been 38 degrees and rain. There's also been a couple of years where it has been perfect in the 60s and 70s. So plan according. I know we're about a month out here, maybe a little bit more. So just make sure that you're checking the weather, and we will be in contact as your race gets closer. But uh, just keep that in the back of your head when you are actively planning to travel to this race venue, that the course weather varies drastically. So when you are packing, pack for rain, pack for freezing cold, pack for a perfect day, pretty much pack for anything in between, because there will be it there. Even in there, the photos that they have here, you're seeing a lot of arm warmers, a lot of long sleeves here. So it's just what you're comfortable with. Race weekend here, the order of events here, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Saturday is that race start. Start time is 8 a.m. for the half marathon. The 5K is a 7:45 start time. It is in the finishing area. So there will be no conflicting of athletes there. There will be no battling for road real estate, which is going to be quite nice. There is a new finish line this year. You're going to be finishing out on the kind of the National Mall area. That'll be really cool. Big celebration is going to be planned there, at least allegedly. But back to before the race. Before the race, Thursday and Friday, we have our Health Expo. Thursday, it's open from noon to 7. Friday, 10 to 7 there. Big thing about the Race Expo is there's probably not going to be parking or a multitude of parking available for you, so they highly encourage you to take the metro in. If you are not afraid to walk, maybe park somewhere else in the city and then take the metro in that way, if you're coming from further away. So that is something just to keep an eye out for. Logistically, it is a kind of a nightmare getting in and out. But if you utilize the metro, that's the easiest way, even though the trains aren't always working. So start line, finish line, expo. Make sure you get up on the race website. Click some of these links here to find out where space available is to park. Okay, all of these links are clickable. The start corral info is not up yet. I assume that is for security purposes, just to make everyone a little safer in our nation's capital. That will be posted later on, if not directly emailed to you. So as the weeks roll by here, make sure you keep out for an email coming to you. And that is pretty much it for the Health and Fitness Expo and days leading up to your race. Again, similar to other race events, make sure when you do get everything, you just double check that you actually do have your race number in there. It is your race number, so make sure you go and check and just double check it with the confirmation emails and things like that you have received preceding your visit to the expo. Also, make sure that you have your safety pins if you plan to do that, or if you are not, if you don't have a race bib and you want to do that for this race, make sure you purchase it at the expo or ahead of time, so that when you get out of that expo, you should have all of your questions answered. You should be very prepared after you leave that spot, and it all goes into preparation beforehand. So this is our course preview. Make sure you check that out. Pretty cool video. This is where they say for folks not from DC, this is where the post-race celebration will be. I don't know how big it will be, but I assume we're going to have one or two of these long, since we do have kind of an avenue set up there. So digging into the course profile, we are starting right here on this side of the Washington Mall, or National Mall here. We're going to zigzag around. We're actually going to cross the Arlington Memorial Bridge, and we're going to zigzag up to that Rock Creek Parkway, where we will climb all the way up to Culvert, then Harvard, and then we'll pretty much do a circle all around to where we started from, and we will finish after we pass the Verizon Center, go Caps, right on that far side of the National Mall here. So with that, there's a load to unpack here, and we are going to get into it. But first, let's dive into elevation. So this is a self-created file right here. It is a little inaccurate, if I'm being totally serious, at this point right through here. It's just the way that I was allowed to do it. But everything else is pretty much accurate up to a 0.1 mile marker here. Big thing to note here, at mile 7.5 right here, you do have a major hill, and that hill does not really end until, let's call it mile 9. Right. After that, it is happy days, and it is a rolling downhill on the backside of our nation's capital, up or down to the finish line right there. The first part of the course here is a flattish, kind of undulating course right through here. There are some pockets mixed in where you will experience some hills for sure, but they are not going to last for a long period of time like the one that's on everybody's mind at the end of the Rock Creek Parkway stretch from mile 7.3 to that 7.7 stretch right there. You can also see we are experiencing some 7s and 8% inclines mixed into there, and we're going to talk about how to battle through those in just a couple of seconds. So leading up to the beginning of the race here, you are going to be corralled in, you're going to be boxed in, there's going to be a lot of runners on the road. If I switch back here, hopefully I can find it really fast for you. Let's back up here. So right through here, you could see how crowded it is at the race start. Very, very crowded. Typically what they do is release a certain number of runners, or they just release everybody out at once. With that being said, it's going to be very, very crowded, especially probably, I would argue, to the end of that Arlington Bridge right there, right at the bottom, right here where my cursor is. And even if they release you staggered, in my opinion, you just don't really have enough room to run until you reach that bridge or even come back on that bridge, right? And then once you start running on that Rock Creek Parkway, that's where things really open up and you can kind of run your race here. In that first mile, right, if you do get caught up in the fun of the games, this is a steady incline. So we're starting out at 8 feet and we are ending at 31 feet for about 1.2, 1.3 miles right there, right off the bat. The adrenaline's going to be high. You're going to want to do well. You're going to want to just try to go your race paces or probably a little faster, and it's going to be easier to go faster. Watch out and do not get sucked into that fast running, that first mile, mile and a half. Okay, if you arrive at the end of that bridge or the beginning of that bridge and you say, wow, I don't know if I can do this, you probably can't. Okay, look at your paces, look at your power targets, watch your heart rate, and connect all of those puzzle pieces together like we've been talking about. And if 2 of the 3 don't match up, you know something's wrong. Then you know you're out of whack and you need to slow down or change something up drastically. Okay, because if you're having alarm bells going off in this first mile, you're not going to reset them on this course. Sorry to say. So after you get to the end of this bridge right here, then this is going to be a little challenging coming back around. It's, for whatever reason, it's just a little mentally tough right here. Let me zoom in for you so you can actually see what I'm talking about here. It's a little tough once you come back around here, just because you'll see a sea of people running to you and away from you. And it's not uncommon for athletes to kind of get into a little funky zone, and that zone will last. Let me back up here so you can see it a little easier. That zone is kind of going to last once you get over here all the way back up till you get past this zigzag kind of Q road area right here. That is going to last until you get to this Rock Creek Parkway, the major portion of it. Then once you get on Rock Creek Parkway, then people start to come out of it before kind of attacking the last half of the race. So if you do want to set yourself up for success, come in mentally strong for those first 5.5 miles, okay? There's going to be a load of people in this area, and it's going to be very, very tightly packed right in here. And that can be really beneficial for you. You can find a group of runners, and you just kind of click together, and you kind of pull each other along and help each other out and motivate each other. Or you can be caught up in kind of the sea, I call it. And they sweep out away from you, and you're trying to catch them, and you're trying to catch them, and before you know it, you're blown up, and you have the hardest part of the run coming up. So for these first 5.5 miles, run your paces, watch your targets, and don't get sucked into the kind of the fun and games, because you can have a lot of fun in these first 5 miles here very easily, and it's going to be very hard to back down. Everybody's going to be in good spirits. They're going to be going faster than they want to. In my experience, you definitely want to start off probably slightly below your race target here, okay? Because once we get to that Rock Creek Parkway, let's come up over here. We are going to be kind of right at this section right through here. So we're going to have about, let's call it a mile and a quarter, mile and a half until we get to this major hill. And if you are not running at your targets leading up to this point here, when you get to the big hill towards the end of that Rock Creek Parkway, right at the top, right there, then you are going to explode coming up off this hill. When you are leading up into it, make sure hydration, nutrition, heart rate, everything is rocking and rolling, pun intended. And when you get to this hill, do not actively try to force things. If you do need to walk, this is the place to do it in certain sections. And I'm going to zoom in here, so get ready. Okay, so now that we are zoomed in here, you can see that the big hill can be divided up into, let's call it 2 portions. This first one from 7.3, and that will last probably until about 7.5 right in there on this map. Actual distances are going to vary a little bit. But then once we get through here, then it really starts to kick up. So when we are approaching that 8.5% right in here, this is a perfect opportunity to walk if need be. No sense in battling if your run is the same speed as your walk, okay? This will allow your heart rate to come down a bit. This will allow you to kind of mentally reset. It is okay to walk portions of this hill. Walk the steepest portions if you need to. And just, if you find yourself walking for an extended period of time here, break it up with that walk-run mentality and just get to the top here. Because once we get to the top, then it flattens out. We are 1.5%, so we're still climbing. And it ticks up a little bit more, but you're not going to see anything beyond that 2 to 2.25% right in here. And that is runnable for sure. But this little section right through here, let's see if I can get an even bigger zoom. Unfortunately, I can't. But you're gonna be able to save some time on these really steep sections here, and you can see I'm hovering over 5.55 to 0.56, 0.6, somewhere in there. So it's not a overly large duration that you really have to worry about on race day. Now, once we are at the top here. Once we're at the top here, it does level off and you will be able to run. Highly encourage you to run and get your legs back here. Target your race power if you are running by power. If you are running by pace, then you are going to need to back things down a little bit through here too, but you still should be actively running. Heart rate shouldn't be sky high here either, and your cadence should be pretty steady through this point in time. Now, once we get back up to mile 9, right through here, right in the middle of that Harvard Street sign right through here, then things get very interesting as we start our turn back into the finish line. As we do that, you'll notice that there are some uphills, but for the most part we are running downhill. This hill throughout here, right? This is a 2 to 2.5% incline, but that doesn't happen until we get kind of towards the top here. And unlike cycling, right, you don't want to actively push that. So if you do really need a little bit of just a reprieve here, this is a perfect spot to just take it really fast, right, before you start going down on the downhills. You're going to save time again by running on those downhills when you can. Because even if you're taking it easy, right, you want to minimize that gap that people put on you that they are running actually on the downhill. If you are walking on the uphill, the speed that everybody is going is slower, right, so you aren't going to allow them to get further away from you at a rapid pace, okay? So the penalty for walk running is going to be less there. And so you really are going to have your legs kind of, they're going to have a challenge for you after we get up this hill. If you do hammer this Rock Creek Parkway hill, then you're going to pay for it later on, and that's probably going to happen right at 11.7 right through here before we make this right-hand turn almost in the heart of the city, coming to Chinatown there. But this whole section through here from mile 8.8 and lasting to mile 10.5 is arguably one of the key sections of the race. If you wanted to back it up a little bit more, the bigger key for me is 7.7 to this 10.5, 10.6 area throughout here. I would I wouldn't put too much emphasis on this uphill portion right here. Of course, if you can get up it faster, then, happy days. But if you totally explode yourself getting up this hill, then it's not going to be worth it because you're just going to be getting to the finish line instead of actively picking the pace up and going towards the finish line. As you do start to make that turn down here, what road is that? That is on North Capitol Street. Um, as you do make that turn onto there through mile 11 here, you are going to experience some higher paces for longer. It's going to be easier. You should be going faster there. Watch your legs. It's easy to let them trail in front of you and to absorb all that impact really far out in front of you. If you do that, then your quads are going to burn really, really badly later on. Very common, again, for people to cramp at that very last hill that we have right through here. It's not a long one, but it's just enough to light those quads up, just enough where people have to just suffer until they get to the line. Don't let that be you. We have a ton of free speed available here. Allow gravity to kind of take you to where you need to go. But again, watch where you're landing out in front of you and use some of those muscles that we have been targeting in our lifts and kind of those running styles that we have been talking about. Now, backing it up again to race day nutrition here. The half is the blue, the green is the 5K course. Again, half starts over here, the 5K starts over here, and it goes up and back, so you don't have or you won't have anyone with a chance at all of running into a 5K, hopefully. The R's over on your race map are the rock and roll band stages where you will experience some extra motivation as you're going. The water signs, there are the water drops right through here. You do have water and Gatorade endurance mixed in through there. The G's right through here again is a Gatorade gel station. A big fan of those Gatorade gels. Obvious ones are the restroom and the medical tent. There is also a biofreeze zone, which is pretty cool. Make sure you check that out. There is going to be it's not labeled out here, but there is a person that has a biofreeze kind of gun. And you go in for a thing called a pit stop, and they're going to spray you down on where you need it. I mean, in theory, kind of cool. I think it's a little unneeded, but different strokes for different folks, I guess. Now, the reason I'm bringing up this race map is because the water droplets have water. They also have Gatorade Endurance mixed in there. So you have the option of the two between water and Gatorade Endurance. Highly, highly recommend that Gatorade Endurance if you do feel like you are sloshing around a bit and you have too much, or you're not a runner that actively absorbs the calories really well. You might want to alternate between Gatorade Endurance and that water, okay? A couple of reasons for this. It's going to be a lot easier to absorb some of those calories. You're also going to get some extra minerals like sodium in there to prevent the cramps that are coming up. Also, make sure you are utilizing those Gatorade gel stations. It just changes up the fuel type that you are putting in your body, which is very, very cool. But again, if you do have those gels, you make sure that you are actively putting water or something in your system with those gels, okay? Very common mistake is for athletes to go down and do the Gatorade with the gel, whatever gel that is, and it becomes too much for the system to handle. So as you are going down the road, you might want to alternate, do a Gatorade Endurance, do a water, or at those water stops, you are taking your Gatorade gel. Just because the gel is at a certain spot doesn't mean that you have to take it there. You can carry it with you, and you can get rid of it at some of these other aid stations that are out on course. So just because it's there doesn't mean that you have to take it there. You can save it and use it for somewhere else when you need to. If you're coming up on these aid stations too fast or too slow, you can use it that way. You'll also be able to grab more than one, at least theoretically, right? So you can do that and have that in the back of your hand. Now, for individual race pacing and needs and all that good stuff, I will be reaching out to you specifically to talk through your day in terms of a race target. I will tell you that Warm-ups are highly mandatory here. Make sure that you do get a warm-up in, just because you don't want to have that warm-up come for those first 2 miles, because you will panic and you will, coming up through these queue lines right through here up to mile 4-ish, or not mile 4, mile 5.5. You will start to panic through there because it took you a little while to warm up and get out of the crowds, and you will kind of fall into that trap of crushing your race before it even happens. So I'll be reaching out to you with specifics, but in the meantime, if you have any questions, please let me know. And good luck to all the racers out there. 2023 Rock and Roll Half Marathon.